Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you my October wrap up, all the books that I read in the month of October. Well, I'm not going to talk about all the books I read in October because I've kind of already talked about them, but I read 8 books total this month, and as you guys remember, I took part in 2 readathons. I took part in the Books in the Freezer readathon the first 2 weeks of the month. The third week of the month, I took part in Spookathon, and I talked about all those books in those wrap-ups. So I have 3 other books that I'm going to talk about in this video, so let's go ahead and get into it. So just really quickly, I wanted to recap what I read during the readathons I took part in. So during Books in the Freezer, which was the first 2 weeks of the month, I read 3 books. I read The Valencourt Book of Horror Stories, Volume 2, edited by James D. Jenkins and Ryan Cagle. I gave this book 4 stars. And then I also read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I gave that book 4 stars. And then I read Red Clocks by Lainey Zumas, and I gave this book 3 stars. I will link my wrap-up to the Books in the Freezer readathon, so if you wanted to check out my in-depth thoughts about these books, you can check those out there. And then in the third week of the month, I took part in Spookathon, and I completed 2 books during Spookathon. I completed The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dion, which I gave 4 stars to. And side note, I got to meet Karen Dion earlier this week. She came to my library for a book chat, and she's so nice. It was so cool. It was my first time ever going to an event like that, so it was really cool to listen to her talk about her book and just to kind of just hang out. It was really nice and really cool, and she signed my book. Let's see if I can pull it up really quick. So yeah, she signed my book. I don't know if you can see it because the pen was green, but yeah, it was really cool, and I really enjoyed this. So yeah, if I didn't say that already, I gave this book 4 stars. And then I completed Spookathon by reading Wraith by Joe Hill and Charles Paul Wilson III, and I gave this 5 stars. Absolutely love this. So after those readathons, I read 3 more books. Well, technically one of them I'm going to talk about. I finished on November 1st, but it's fresh in my mind right now, so I'm going to talk about it in this wrap-up. But first, the first book I finished post-readathons was Evicted by Matthew Desmond. I listened to this book on audio. It's a nonfiction book about the kind of poverty-stricken areas of Milwaukee, and how some of the kind of policies regarding like government assistance and evictions and all of that stuff has affected this area of the city. It was very good. Matthew Desmond did such a wonderful job of writing this book. When I was reading it, I felt a lot how I felt when I read In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, because he writes it in such a way that you forget that you are reading a nonfiction book. And then I had to keep reminding myself, like, these people are real. This is their, you know, this is how their life is. And it was amazing. He actually lived within these communities and in these properties during the writing of his book. So he really got to know the people that he was interviewing. He really got to know the community in which he was writing about, and I thought it was just fantastic. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's so it just got me thinking so many things and feeling so many feelings, because I feel like a lot of times when people get to thinking about the poverty-stricken people in our country, they tend to kind of just go, well, why don't they just get a job? And it's, or, you know, things like that. And you're like, okay, it's not that simple. And you really see that in this book, that it's a very complex issue, and that in many ways the government programs that are supposed to be there to assist these people, they're flawed, they're not working, there are definitely problems, and the system is definitely failing them in many ways. It was just an eye-opening read. Like I said, loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Highly recommend it. It's really good. Just read it. The next book that I completed in October was The Rule of One by Ashley Saunders and Leslie Saunders, and this book was sent to me for review. This is a YA dystopia about this kind of dystopian United States where there is this law called the Rule of One, which is that every couple is only allowed to have one child, and the story centers around two twin girls who their father, when they were born, kind of hid them away, and they were living as the same person for 18 years until they are found out by the government, and then they are on the run. And this book was a bit of a disappointment, I'm not gonna lie. I just feel like in terms of YA dystopia, it's kind of a hard genre to break into because it is done so much, has been done so much, that it's really hard, I think, to do original things and come up with original stories and ideas. So I felt like this book didn't do that. I felt like it didn't really have anything new to say or to introduce. The story was very much a road story, which I tend to like, but I didn't connect with it. I feel like the biggest problem I had with this was that there was a total lack of world building, which to me, and now I know, I've since found out since finishing the book, that this is actually the first book in what is going to be a series, which has honestly even turned me off even more to it because I'm just not, I'm not in the mood to commit to a series right now, and this book just didn't do anything for me. But back to the world building, I feel like sometimes in series, just because you're going to have multiple books doesn't mean that you can slack on getting people immersed in your world, especially in the first book. In this book, there's a lot of things going on in the country, and you don't get a lot of explanation on why that came to be or how that came to be. And I wanted that. I know it's not always necessary to do that in a dystopian book. Sometimes you just accept that this is, okay, this is the way the world is now. But in this, I wanted more of an explanation. Because in this world, it's very much like a military police state. Everyone has a microchip. You're constantly under surveillance, video surveillance. Face recognition software is able to basically find you anywhere you are. It's very, there's just a lot of that kind of Big Brother stuff going on, and you don't really ever know like why that happened or how that happened. And then the whole premise of the book, this rule of one, I wanted to know more of like why that rule was enforced, other than, I mean, I know they're trying to control the population, but I just wanted more of an explanation as to how something like that could come to be. And you do kind of get in like maybe one sentence in the book, you get an answer to the question of, well, what happens if you have twins? What do they do? Sorry, my daughter started bumping the camera. I don't even know where I was. So yes, the rule of one, that whole law, I wanted to have more of an explanation as to why it existed and how they enforced it. And you really only got like a one sentence kind of explanation like halfway through the book, and that just wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. The other big thing was that it seemed like, because this book takes place in Dallas, Texas, and it seems like in this world, the governor of Texas has more power than even the president of the United States, which to me is like, okay, how did that happen? Because it's like implied a lot throughout the book that the governor is like a big shot, like I said, he has more clout than the president, and it's like, well, how, why? And there's this also kind of implied that the states are very separate, that the federal government has basically like taken a huge step back, and I want to know how that happened. Why did that happen? So yeah, overall this book just didn't really do it for me. I didn't like that the two main characters, the twins, Mira and Ava, I don't even remember the other girl's name. I think it's Ava. Yes. They seemed like the same person. Because the book has a dual perspective, so every chapter switches from one twin to the other. And during those I couldn't tell who was who. They seemed exactly the same to me. And to me, if you're going to do a dual perspective, the characters have to be you know, distinguishable, and they were not. I feel like this book would have maybe done better to have like a just single, like, third person omniscient kind of narrative. I think that that would have worked better personally, because having it first person with these two altering narrators didn't really do anything for the story or make you find out more about the characters, like the way they think and stuff. So overall, yeah, I wouldn't recommend this, guys. Maybe it's just that I'm too old for this, and maybe it's that I've outgrown YA dystopia, I don't know, but it just didn't really do anything for me, and I gave it 2 stars. And then the last book that I want to talk about, I finished today, November 1st, and I'm counting it in my October wrap-up because I don't want to wait till the very end of the month to talk about it, because my mind is fresh now, so I'm going to talk about it now. That book is The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. I listened to this book on audio. It is a book told through the eyes of a dog named Enzo. And it just basically is his life with his owner and his family. And his owner, Denny, is a race car driver. And so a lot of the book is Enzo kind of making these metaphors for, you know, relating life to a race car race, which I did enjoy. I liked that aspect. But overall, I think the book was okay. Usually dog books really get me. They really tug at my heart. I am a huge dog lover, and they usually make me cry. In this one, I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be a totally, like, emotional ride, and it really wasn't. Overall, it was just okay. I guess my big thing with it was that Enzo was a dog, but he had a lot of, like, he had, like, some very human characteristics and thought processes, but then in other areas he was very much like what you would think a dog would think like. And I don't know, it was just kind of weird to me. And some of the stuff that happens in the book, the main plot, which I can't really say because it would be spoilery, but some of the main stuff that happened in the book plot-wise, I thought was a little bit far-fetched, a little bit just like too drama, to like Lifetime movie, I don't know. So it was okay. I think if you are a dog lover, I think you should still read this book, but just know it's probably not the best one out there, but it was good, and I gave it 3 stars. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I read in the month of October. It was a pretty good month, I have to say. I had a couple of 5-star reads, which is always great. And yeah, so please let me know down below what you read in October, because I would love to hear about it. I know that towards the end of the month for me, reading slowed down a little bit because I started watching The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, and oh my god. I've never read the book, and I know that the show is like completely different from the book, but it's amazing. It like hooked me from the first episode. There are some downright terrifying things in that show where I was like, ah! The bent neck lady? Oh my god, yes, so good. I haven't been so like freaked out by a show in a long time, so I loved it. I actually haven't even finished it yet. I have a couple episodes to go, but I love it already. Just the acting is great, the story is great, and I think what the big thing about it that I love is that it has like that horror aspect for sure, but then it has a lot of heart, and I love when those two things combine together. It's magic for me. It's just magic. So yeah, Haunting of Hill House. If you haven't watched it, you definitely should check it out. It ate up a lot of my reading time, but I'm not even sorry about it because it was really good and really worth it. So yes, I hope you guys had a great month. I hope that Halloween was really fun for you and nice and spooky. And yeah, I guess that's all I have. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.